Sometimes the burden of sin is just too much. Sometimes the weight of the guilt is too heavy. Sometimes it feels like there's no way out of a sin. Sometimes you think you're stuck in it for life. But believe me there's no time to be despondent, because bro, you are Jannah material. Join us as we discuss 4 reasons why no Jannati should ever be watching pornography. The first reason, you see, Allah has put a great deal of enjoyment and tranquility in ibadah. Think about performing salah on a big night. You make a long 2 rakats of salah and it just hits the spot. Think about listening to a beautiful qira'ah. Think about looking at the beauty of the Kaaba. Think about the satisfaction you get when you give sadaqah. Allah has put enjoyment in all of these good deeds. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, لَعَنَهُ اللَّهُ النَّاذِرِ ila akhir al-hadith. Allah's curse is on the one who lustfully looks at the wrong thing, meaning Allah's curse is on the one who watches pornography. Now what does it mean for a person to incur Allah's curse? It means the person moves away from Allah and closer to shaitan, and now those things which are supposed to give him enjoyment no longer give him enjoyment, and the wrong things start to give him enjoyment. So the first reason for why no Jannati should ever be watching pornography is because pornography and watching pornography is a thief of your happiness and a thief of your enjoyment in ibadah. So the second reason, remember that hadith I spoke about where Allah's curse is on a person who looks lustfully? So the second part of that very same hadith is wal mandur ilay. Allah's curse is on that person who puts themselves out there to be looked at lustfully. Allah's curse is on that person. So every time a porn video gets a view, that porn star gets cursed by Allah, and as a result they go closer and closer to shaitan and further away from Allah. According to the hub, and you know which hub I'm talking about, in 2017 on an average day they got 81 million views a day. So can you imagine how close these porn stars are to shaitan? So even though it may be virtually, but you are spending time in that type of a wretched, dirty company, and that type of company will affect your soul. Remember the example Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave of a person spending time in the company of a blacksmith, a person who works with fire and coal and iron. He will eventually start smelling of smoke. And the example of a person who spends time with a person who sells perfume, he's bound to smell like perfume. So you are bound to be impacted and affected by the company that you keep. And the other very scary part of spending time in this company, even if it's virtual company, is you develop an expectancy that your partner will give you what that porn star is giving in that video. And a good Muslim spouse will definitely not do what a wretched, perverted individual will do. So you now develop an appetite for something which is not served on the menu when you get married, and that can lead to marital conflict. In essence, the second reason for why no Jannati should ever be watching pornography is that you're spending time in the company of an individual who has been cursed by Allah, and you develop an appetite for something which isn't on the menu. The third reason, we know that any Hollywood production is an exaggeration of reality. If you put Paul Walker and Vin Diesel in a Lycan Hypersport and you ask them to drive out of one skyscraper, one tall building in Dubai, and land in the next tall building in Dubai, will it be possible? Is it realistic? Can they do it in real life? Never days. I've come across a video of Photoshop where they photoshopped a pizza so hard that that pizza turned into a person. So in a Hollywood production, using camera tricks, using effects, using stuntman, using Photoshop, and using all of these things, they are able to produce something that has no real link to reality. So when a person is watching pornography, he is watching a gross exaggeration of what should be happening in the bedroom. And in the process, he starts to develop insecurities. He develops insecurities about the duration of his own performance. He develops insecurities about his physical appearance. He develops insecurities about the size of his physical limbs. And all of these insecurities damage the way you perceive yourself and the persona that you have of yourself. So the argument some would raise is that why when you watch an action video, we don't say that that develops insecurities about your fighting ability, but when watching porn, we say it will develop insecurities in that regard. The difference between the two is when you're watching anything else, you watch passively. You watch without being completely consumed by what you're watching. But when a person is watching a pornographic video, he's so consumed, he's so drawn in by it, that he develops an assumption, or in his mind he assumes the role of one of those characters in the video, and it has that type of a physical effect on himself. So watching a general video, you watch passively. Watching a pornographic video, you watch very intensely. And as you're watching very intensely, it is sending subliminal messages to your brain, and in the process you are developing terrible insecurities about yourself. I'll just give a tip to all the young men. Not your beard, not your six-pack, not your smart car, not your good looks. Nothing is more attractive to your spouse than confidence. Confidence is the golden, most attractive quality that any spouse can have. And if you watch porn, you're robbing yourself of confidence, and you are developing insecurity, and you're developing insecurity in that aspect which you need confidence. So the next reason for why no Jannati should ever be watching pornography is it makes you insecure and it robs you of your confidence. So the fourth reason, and this will seal the deal. If anybody comes to me and says to me that I watch pornography and thereafter don't follow it up with another sin, I don't believe you. The nature of pornography is that it leads a person into other sins with a ripple effect, and all of those sins are so serious, and all of those sins cause so much of regret in dunya. Imagine how much regret it will cause in the akhirah. Allah speaks about those who protect their chastity. وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ لِفُرُوجِهِمْ حَافِظُونَ. Allah praises those people who protect their chastity and protect their modesty and protect their private parts. Allah also condemns those who look for other mediums to satisfy themselves. فَمَنِ ابْتَغَى وَرَاءَ ذَلِكَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْعَادُونَ. So my point is basically, watching pornography is like throwing yourself into shaitan's grip. He catches you fast, he holds you, and then he makes you do whatever he wants you to do, and it leads to so many other sins. There are sins that you would never commit under usual circumstances. There are sins which you hate. There are sins which you are reluctant to even look towards. But after a person watches pornography, he's so consumed by it, shaitan got him so fast that shaitan can make him commit major sins which he in himself hates terribly. So the fourth reason for why no Jannati should ever be watching pornography is that it leads to major sins, and that is not something we can deal with. So the $1,000,000 question is, how does a person stay away from the sin? The ulama advise that if you keep your iman at a high level, if you have a high level of taqwa, you become less tolerant to sin, and you become less susceptible to the influences of shaitan. How do you maintain a high level of iman? You get involved in the work of deen that is inviting towards iman. How do you maintain a high level of iman? You keep the company of those people who have a high level of iman, and that will have an impact on you. Also, get occupied with a hobby, because those times when you're spending alone, you are susceptible to the influences of shaitan. Those moments that you're spending with an idle mind, shaitan can make you dear makar in those moments. So those moments, rather get involved in an exciting, stimulating, good hobby that keeps you going and keeps your mind occupied. And if in the process, as you're trying, as you're fighting, you do slip, you do fall, remember the doors of Allah's mercy are open. Raise your hands and cry to Allah. If you aren't able to cry, imitate the person who's crying. If you aren't able to do that, at least sigh with regret. But we cry, and we try, and we cry, and we try, and eventually we fly into the mercy of Allah Jalla Jalaluhu. May Allah give us strength, and may Allah be pleased with all of us.